Repeat with me.
Jesus is my light.
Jesus is my hope.
Jesus is my peace. Jesus is my strength.
Jesus
Jesus
is my
is my healer.
Jesus is my
Jesus
protector.
is my protector.
Jesus is my refuge.
Jesus is my refuge.
Jesus is my salvation.
Jesus is my salvation.
Jesus is my
Jesus
comfort.
is my comfort.
Jesus is my
Jesus
provider.
is my provider.
Jesus is my foundation.
Jesus
Jesus is my joy.
is my joy.
Jesus is my redeemer.
is my redeemer.
Jesus is my
Jesus
deliverer.
is my deliverer.
Jesus is my
Jesus
shield.
is my shield.
Jesus is
Jesus
my
is my anchor.
Jesus is my rock.
is my rock.
Jesus is my guide.
is my guide.
Jesus is my end.
is my end.
Jesus is
Jesus
my
is
Alpha
my
and
Alpha
Omega.
and Omega.
Jesus is my
Jesus is my righteousness.
Jesus is my
Jesus
holiness.
is my holiness.
Jesus is my grace.
is my grace.
Jesus is my mercy.
is my mercy.
Jesus is my
Jesus
forgiveness.
is my forgiveness.
Jesus is my
Jesus
assurance.
is my assurance.
Jesus is my
security.
Jesus is my shelter in the storm.
shelter in the storm.
Jesus is my calm in
Jesus
chaos.
is my calm in
Jesus
chaos.
is my song in the
Jesus
night.
is my song in the
Jesus
night.
is my courage.
Jesus is my courage.
Jesus is my
Jesus
blessing.
is my
Jesus
blessing.
is my favor.
Jesus is my
Jesus
favor.
is my purpose.
Jesus is my
Jesus
purpose.
is my calling.
Jesus is my calling.
Jesus is my
Jesus
inspiration.
is my inspiration.
Jesus is my song.
Jesus is my song.
Jesus is my
Jesus
testimony.
is my testimony.
Jesus is my
Jesus
everything.
is my everything.
Jesus is my guide and
Jesus is my
decisions.
guide and decisions.
Jesus is my faith builder. Jesus is my source of love. Amen.
If you believe this, type Amen in the comments. If your hands are not busy, send this prayer to someone you want God to bless today and watch what God is about to do in your life. Don't be stingy with your Amen.